I think in the West we are not really paying attention. Our industry has moved to China for most things, and the lighting industry has very much moved to China. What we need to be aware of is no longer do the West necessarily lead lighting innovation, but we become consumers and users of it. We're beginning to see innovation here, and that's kind of why I'm here, to see what is coming next. I mean, China has gone woof,
Yes.
and the local market has massively got bigger. So not, it's now an industry for China, not just for selling internationally. However, China now dominates the international marketplace as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's impossible to buy any lighting product in Europe and the UK that doesn't have some, if not most, Chinese components.
Welcome to the virtual light design community. We are in Guangzhou, attending the Guangzhou International Lighting Exhibition. We've just completed our event, East meets West, where the main topic was lighting for health and well-being. My guest is Kevan Shaw, one of the eminent speakers at the event. Kevan, welcome.
Thank you.
First question for those who don't know you. Who is Kevan? Where does he live and what does he do in his daily life?
Right, I am a lighting designer. I feel almost like I'm saying that, as you say, I'm an alcoholic, because lighting is an addiction.
Yes.
I think the polite thing to say would be a vocation. I live and work in Edinburgh. I do work, at this point, it changes from time to time. At this point, mostly in the UK and in Northern Europe and Scandinavia. But I've worked all over the world, except in China. Anybody got a job? But I'm a lighting designer. I've been involved in lighting one way or another pretty much since I left university. I didn't study it there. I studied economic and technological history and social psychology as a joint honours degree. And my route into professional lighting was through stage lighting. I got involved in that in university, and I ended up, when I left, practicing as a lighting designer and working as lighting crew, mostly with rock and roll bands for the best part of 10 years. So in the end of the 1980s, I set up my own practice and returned to Edinburgh, because I've been living in London. I've been pretty much doing that ever since.
So this is not your first time in China, because I know we have met here before.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether we met here in Guangzhou, in Chongqing, or somewhere, one of those events. I know you've been to China, but it's been a while, I think, quite a number of years from before COVID.
Yeah.
What's your impression right now?
My impression? That of a maturing market for lighting. I think in the West we are not really paying attention. Essentially, lighting has moved from a Western thing because of lots of economic and political reasons. Industry has moved to China for most things, and the lighting industry has very much moved to China.
Yes.
So I think what we need to be aware of is no longer do the West necessarily lead lighting innovation, but we become consumers and users of it. We're beginning to see innovation here, and that's kind of why I'm here, to see what is coming next.
Right.
Whereas it used to be, you'd see the innovation maybe in Frankfurt, and then you'd see the copies here a year or two later. So first time I came to this exhibition was 2015, and it has changed in character quite a bit. The first time I came, it was all about selling. It was almost all relatively low quality, very cheap stuff.
Right.
Now I'm here, what I'm seeing is a lot of stuff that is intended for the local market. I mean, you even got stands saying no export on them.
Right. Oh, really?
So,
I didn't
yes.
see that.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. No, the local market. I mean, China has gone woof.
Yes.
And the local market has massively got bigger. So not, it's now, an industry for China, not just for selling internationally. However, China now dominates the international marketplace as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's impossible to buy any lighting product in Europe and the UK
It's not somewhere
that
around here.
doesn't have some, if not most, Chinese components.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I mean, most
is
lighting
it.
manufacturers are based here. There's close to 10,000 LED manufacturers in
Yeah.
China alone.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, even all the big brands have factories in China.
well, yeah, they have factories in China, or they just buy from the Chinese.
Yeah. Oh, they buy. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think the idea of the Western company, the factory here, is sometimes a bit of a falsehood for marketing purposes. There's a lot of OEM manufacture here. There's a lot of contract manufacture. So a Western company will specify a product, and this has happened extensively with LED lamps, replacement lamps. You know, the ordinary ES or BC general lamp, they're made here. And even if they're branded by a major Western company, what they started to do was they gave up with lamps when they lost the previous technologies. So they come here and they will write a specification, they'll bid the specification to a number of companies for a quantity. They'll buy that quantity for the best price. A few months later, when they need more, they'll do it again. And every now and then it goes wrong, because what happens is the spec that they wrote can't be met anymore by the company, so they lose a product.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's happened to us on a couple of projects with quite significant consequences.
Oh, right. Interesting. So you were here to participate in our event as a speaker on light for health and well-being. Tell us a little bit about your topic and maybe what your biggest takeaway was from all the discussions that we had around that topic.
All right. Well, what I wanted to do, I mean, light and well-being has kind of got funneled into one area, particularly, which is circadian impacts, and we've even co-opted a whole term for this. So what I wanted to do is to go through a lot more of the impacts of light on us as human beings, as entities, as animals, and as social beings, because it's not just the diurnal lighting. That's a very tiny part of how light impacts us. So I tried in a relatively short time to get through an awful lot of stuff. I don't know how.
I know you were given a short time. I know.
Yeah. I don't know whether I got across quite enough or not. But,
well, that's why we have recorded the,
Yeah.
the session, so people can take their time at their own convenience to listen again.
all right. So the takeaway for this is listen to my talk 2 or 3 times. You might get it.
But was there anything that stood out for you? Like, what's your biggest takeaway from the various topics that were presented?
I think on 2 things that are diametrically opposed. On one hand, there's not much difference between East and West in terms of what's wanted. And on the other hand, there are some very cultural influences which seem to expect different outcomes and different things. And I think maybe it's about quantity of light to an extent.
Well, I've always viewed like the Western approach about quality and the Eastern approach about quantity. It's not maybe doing it justice, and that seems to start to balance out a bit. So, like you rightfully mentioned, I feel that the difference are becoming less and less.
Yeah,
it's growing towards each other.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think there's a good cross-fertilization across the I don't know, is it geographical divide or a cultural divide? I feel probably
or both.
Yeah, but I think the real big takeaway though is that actually from a physiological point of view and to a large extent from a psychological point of view, we all react in the same way to light.
Yes.
I mean, there's no racial difference or physical difference.
But in
or
another way, you
difference.
have people that appreciate lighting still differently. Some people find bright more pleasant, other like dim more pleasant. I mean, there's still, from culture background, sometimes a different appreciation of light. No?
Well, with the bright and dim, I think one point that didn't really come across at all, we didn't really get a chance to explore it, was the fact that if you let people loose with a lighting control system, the natural thing for people to do in most situations is make it as bright as possible.
Yeah.
And I think it's easily explained. As I said in my talk, we have not evolved into this artificially lit life. We evolved as an outdoor species. You know, we were, you know, hunter-gatherers, then we were in an agrarian society, and we spent most of our time outdoors. 2 centuries we've been brought indoors, and you know, we still inherently, I think, crave the outdoor brightness and the outdoor feeling, certainly during the day. At night, not so much. It's a different thing.
Right.
So I think that is something, and I think maybe there's a bit more expressiveness in the client end of Make It Brighter here in certain areas in the East than there is in the West.
Interesting. Okay. Now, I'm here as a representative of virtual language design community. You have contributed to that. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting presentation. Now that you have had time to get a bit of a better feel of what we do as a community, what are your thoughts? We're now a year further down the road.
Well, I think it's what's astonished me is it has taken so long for a virtual lighting community to start to develop.
Right.
I mean, if you know, the internet has been around since the mid 1990s, and okay, maybe I'm just an early adopter of things, but you know, I hoped and thought that we'd start getting involved with the internet. I mean, lighting has a technical component to it, so you expect people to be comfortable with technology.
Yeah.
But really, there have been no, until now, there have been no takeoffs of virtual communities, no real engagements with, even with the platforms like Facebook or Twitter, or LinkedIn maybe a little bit more, but they've not really got the lighting community together in the way VLDC is now doing. So quite why it should have taken 20 years, I don't know, but I'm really glad it's here.
I mean, we didn't know when we started it, but it's really by the community, for the community. We really want people to reach out to each other and provide a platform that lives on beyond events like this, where we meet face to face. Great to see you again, by the way. But it's nice to be able to keep in touch afterwards, and that's what the platform also aims to be doing. So yeah. Now, a more personal question. What drives Kevan Shaw out of bed in the morning? What's your passion? What's the drive that gets you to do what you do every day? So you're not a spring chicken anymore, right? It's like,
no.
But you're still running around.
I'm still running around. I'm still doing it. I still enjoy it. I still enjoy the creative aspects. I think the thing that lighting does more than maybe anything else I'm aware of is you have to be constantly learning.
Yeah.
There's constant change, technological change, and I mean that's been there forever since I've been in lighting. But in the last 10, 15 years, we've had a very compressed technological change, and we have junked pretty much all the light source technologies we had for LED. Now, it's not just been a natural thing. Previous generations of change have been quite organic and natural. There's been some time, a new thing has come in, you had a chance to get used to it and then deal with it. Because of external pressures, and not the least of which is climate change and energy use, we have been regulated into an entirely LED world faster than the technology has been maturing. So I think maybe now we're beginning to get technology that is, you know, that should have been there when we adopted LEDs 10 years ago. So now is you know, we don't have a choice anymore. We're using LEDs. But we have a choice to be able to understand more about exactly the qualities of the LEDs we're using and focus on the higher end of it. But I've drifted totally away from the original point. Why do I do this? To learn, to teach, actually. I really enjoy mentoring people and bringing people up and enthusing them with my enthusiasm for light and lighting. And I said there's a sort of quasi-religious vocational aspect to lighting design. So I might be getting on, but I'm not at this point. You know, I'm not jaded by it. I'm still. I think there's still more to do, more that can be done, and more opportunities for me to explore ideas, concepts, and creativity.
So you've seen a lot of change coming through in our profession. You may have frustrations about some things. What if you could change something? If you had a magic wand and you could change something within the lighting industry, is there something you say, please, if we could change this, or what would that be?
It would be our whole approach to metrics of light.
Right.
Radically. Right down, the V lambda curve, gone.
Right.
The lumen, gone. We have been driven, and it's not a drift, it's a drive, into measuring illuminance. That is the amount of light that lands on a surface. And that is actually totally irrelevant. We don't experience illuminance, we experience luminance. We experience the light that comes back from everything, the reflected light.
Emotion, yeah.
And it's not, why are we measuring the thing that we don't see, and we have, we can't measure unless we create an instrument specifically designed to measure it.
Yeah.
In terms of what we've been talking about now in health and well-being, the limitations of the lumen and the V lambda curve have become even more apparent, because if now we understand how light optically changes other things in our bodies, but it's nothing to do with the V lambda curve. It's a whole different part of the spectrum. So why are we measuring something that's ineffective and trying to force that into something that has this other effect? So I would throw out the entirety of lighting metrics to start again.
Sounds like a plan. Now, that probably ties in with my next question about the future. Is there a place for artificial intelligence to replace all that?
Artificial intelligence to replace what? The lighting design?
No, what you just said, what you want to change. Because you throw it out, does it need to be replaced? Because now we're looking at smart lighting fixtures, we are looking at artificial intelligence, we're using at, now it's ChatGPT, I don't know, all kinds of things that are happening.
I think there's two different strands to answer here.
Right.
Yes, we can replace it.
Yeah.
And work has been done. I know we've come across Kit Cuttle.
Yes, of course.
His work, his LIDOS system, it essentially replaces, it uses the numbering, it still uses V lambda curve and all that all that stuff is in there. But at least from a design perspective, it gives us a chance to work with what we see and what impacts us rather than what lands. But we missed out on the opportunity to do that a long time ago, because papers were being written as far back as the 1930s, and brightness design, as opposed to illumination design, was being developed and practiced right through into the late 1940s and early 1950s. And it all disappeared. It got dissolved under this load of illuminance. Artificial intelligence. To be honest, I have played with ChatGPT. I thought it might be quite interesting to put some lighting concepts in and see if I could get it to write my talks for me.
Right. No, not yet, maybe.
Well, not yet.
The output is as good as the input, and I think one of the things also, how do you define the right input to get the right output, or right?
It is to an extent. The thing is that these things can't yet think for themselves. They can't come up with an original idea. All they can do is repeat and parrot back what the accepted wisdom is. That in itself is dangerous, because that is a potential for preventing change, development, new ideas, and new thinking coming into it. If everything comes out as something that's been fed by the past, we suddenly don't have a future. In terms of the potential for it to be a problem solver, I think there is an opportunity. So I presume that means VLDC is going to get its own AI, and
probably, who knows?
I mean, where I absolutely think it would be brilliant is to help us with product research, because what we're looking at is turning facts into information and filtering. Now, I'm sure an AI could do that with much more efficiency and with much less boredom than me going through endless catalogues or trawling the web trying to find exactly what I want. But if I could get an AI to deliver me some options for a spec, from a, that would be a brilliant tool to have.
It will be interesting to see where we go. Maybe if we chat in a year or two from now, things will be totally different.
Yeah.
Kevin, thank you so much. Thanks for your contribution.
Well, I've enjoyed it. I always enjoy talking and enjoy lighting and enjoy traveling here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.